Right. Back when I first started at Lawrence Tech in 2016, that fall we opened the Detroit Center for Design and Technology, which is basically a place where we do all of our Detroit-centric activities at LTU. We do a lot of design classes there. We have a really neat studio there, several studios, in fact, of architecture and design students. We do exhibitions, we do community events, we do a lot of community outreach. And the manager of the DCDT is with us today, Andrea Bogart. So welcome, Andrea.
Thank you for having me. Nice to
Sure.
see you in person. I've heard your name in LTU, but it's nice to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. You too. So we have a new, basically it was scheduled to be, obviously, before the pandemic hit, an in-person series of events this summer centered around the impact of climate change and sustainability and how the built environment sort of affects that. And I love the title of it, so why don't we start out with the title of it, which is Yeah, What Lester Said. So why don't we start out with who is Lester?
Yes, so just step back a bit. So we are the College of Architecture and Design, the DCDT, and working with the architects, our professors and so forth, and just living in this world, understanding that climate change is a huge issue. We wanted to tackle it in a way that was appropriate for our college, but also extremely important. So Lester Brown has been called one of the great pioneer environmentalists. And he actually pioneered the concept of sustainable development. He was presented in 1987 with the United Nations Environmental Prize. He's one of the Marquis Who's Who, Greatest 50 Americans, and he was really the person that started us talking about climate change and introduced the concept. So Christopher Stefani, our associate director at the Detroit Center for Design and Technology, thought quoting him and bringing his name into it would help connect it to people who really understood who he was.
Okay. So talk about a little bit some of the online events that are coming up. I know there's an exhibition, I know there's a lecture series.
So we launched, so obviously as I'm the curator of our Woodward Gallery as well as our Corridor Gallery up on the second floor, and I'm an artist and I'm a curator and we got to get work in person, right? Well, we can't do that. And we started working on this project. I work with the American Institute of Architects, Michigan chapter, 2030 District, Detroit. And they were part of the team putting this together, as well as Jan Colbertson of AC3. Who is a District 2030 leader in Ann Arbor. They're our team members. We've been working since January on this. I brought them in because they are experts in the areas that they do. I also brought in the Wright Museum because they did green infrastructure. So they were also at the table, and I needed experts that did different areas. I'm not a climate change expert. I am manager of the DCDT. So we've been working since January thinking, all right, this is going to be in person, it's going to be great. And then of course the pandemic hit, and then we, like all other organizations, had to figure out how we were going to move this easily online. And there's a lot of events, a lot of moving parts. The exhibit was easiest because that's of course visual. It's not as good to be just visual in front, just 2D in front of work. You want to be 3D, but the work is spectacular. There's audio, there is documentaries, there's obviously 2D work. We also have on our page, it's detroit.design/Lester. We have not only the exhibition, we also have AIA Michigan boards. So what architecture firms are doing sustainable projects, you can find that in the dropdown. And then we have a net zero home reconstruction in Ann Arbor. One of our artists reconstructed a home, so his path and all the images are also in our exhibit. We have 2.5 months worth of programming. The first was the art exhibit launch, which was on June 1st. Then we had kind of a meet and greet with Districts 2030 Ann Arbor, Grand Rapids, and Detroit. That presentation is, I grabbed and put that in our blog. The last event we did virtually that we stream through social media. So it's not just you have to have a Zoom link and get in. We stream it to the public. It was called Navigating the Nuts and Bolts of Stormwater Infrastructure, with the Wright Museum and the Sacred Heart Church and all of the experts that put together these two projects and how they did it, kind of like case studies for other organizations that were interested in doing this green infrastructure on their buildings. And AIA Michigan has put together a CES certification for all architects who were included, participated in the events. They can actually, even if they're members or non-members, get certified in these areas. So I'm very grateful to AIA Michigan for doing that. The next event that we have on the calendars is coming Thursday. At 4:30 is the Artist Talk. So we have 3 artists and the co-curator who are going to be discussing how these artist activists from all over the country use their art to raise awareness and to change minds. So that's going to be fascinating. Right after that, on July 29th, we have Building a Carbon Neutral World. That is with AC3. AI Michigan is going to be moderating that. So how do we get more towards a net zero universe? And, you know, I'm talking about all these things without knowing much. So what I want is for you to attend these events. They're free, they're live streamed, anyone can join. It's really easy. And basically just go to detroit.design/Lester. And you can find all of the events and just RSVP and join us for free. And then you get to hear from the experts who know what they're talking about.
Well, one of the advantages of doing that, though, is anybody in the world can watch this versus you have to be at the event. That's really the upside to all this. As we move forward and we hopefully get the pandemic behind us, are you going to be looking at the possibility of doing more of this to serve that worldwide audience?
Absolutely. I happen to be a tech startup founder, although I am an artist, and physical work is extremely important. It helps to create that relationship, that emotional relationship, and obviously seeing people in person also helps build that connection. Being able to expand your reach, you know, you're in marketing, you know, that is paramount, especially when you're speaking about things that are globally important. We found that our last event, which will be on August 6th, is the path to sustainable fashion. And although this isn't architecture related, we felt that it was a very, very important piece that we wanted to include in this, what Lester said, climate change, because it really is about really protecting our environment. And we have right now, without even promoting it, probably about 87 people who've RSVP'd, and a lot of them are from overseas. Because fashion is obviously a global thing, and this whole fast fashion problem that we're having is global. So we are getting a lot of people from out of Michigan as well as out of the country signing up, and that's really exciting to us because we get to bring this conversation to a broader audience. So yes, when we get back to our normal, obviously the gallery will be open. In fact, yeah, we have Month of Design. We will have in-person events for Month of Design in Detroit, but we will also be online. So we're working with the artists and the curators to be able to put both of those out there so that anyone can see it.
Well, I'm hoping one of the things we get back to is not just normal, but better than normal. And sustainability is certainly a part of that. I will admit to being an addict of a cable network called DIY Network. And one of my favorite shows on it is called Building Off the Grid. And it's a bunch of people who basically build homes that you don't need to hook up to the utilities. And there are a lot of things about those houses that really aren't that different from, you know, a typical house today. So I know, you know, what Lester said is all about sustainability, but you don't have to, I think the message we need to get through to people is that you don't have to give up a ton of creature comforts or give up a ton of money in order to get a lot closer to a net zero built environment, right?
It's very true. Yes. And I think that's one of the ways you have to convince people. It's really, how does it affect them? You know, we're seeing a lot of good things happening with the climate because of this pandemic, people doing less things, people using their cars less, their carbon footprint has been lowered. So, I mean, I live in Metro Detroit and we back up to a forest. I'm seeing a lot more animals come out, which I happen to love, but it's that getting the person connected to how it's valuable to them is really one of the most important things. And a lot of sustainable nonprofits talk about how much money the average consumer can save if they even just put a curtain, a nice blackout shade in front of their window, how much money it can save them. And that affects them personally. So yeah, that sounds like a fabulous program that you are involved, that you watch.
Yep, absolutely. So talk about some of the other things going on at the DCDT. I know the college plans to get back to at least some in-person classes this fall, and there will be a lot of blended and hybrid classes as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm not privy to that part of it. Being the manager, I take care of our portion of the building and really run the events, the exhibits. But obviously, I do know that the students are coming back in the fall to our campus. We are not Southfield. Southfield is the main campus. We have many less classes, even in a normal semester. So our goal at the DCDT is really to keep the students that are coming to class separated, really just themselves. So we can control the conditions. But we do have the exhibits, and we do have things that we're relegating them to one side of the DCDT, and we're having the students on the other side, and we're coordinating that off so we can really make sure that they're safe, and also for the people who are our guests that come to our events. You know, that's really important to us, is everyone's safety and understanding that we respect them.
Okay.
Obviously, you're making them wear masks. What else are you making them do?
Masks, we have disinfectant. I haven't been told much else. We're still a little ways away from opening. So the university is determining what it is that the DCDT is going to do with both our students as well as our guests. In terms of the month of design, this is coming not just from the university, but from Design Corps as well. Keeping the guests down to maybe 4 people at a time and scheduling them as they come in to see these exhibits, really making sure that we're keeping the amount of people that enter our building down.
All right.
In a non-pandemic situation, how many people would come into your building typically?
Oh, depending on what we were doing, there are times, I mean, we've had third-party events where we would have 200 people in our space at one time, and we have the ground floor gallery, and then we have the second floor. So we have quite a few areas for people to congregate. So yeah, we could have up to a couple hundred people depending on what's going on. But typically, just the students and maybe some meetings, some co-working, things like that.
We're about out of time here for this segment, so why don't you give folks the web address once again for the Yeah, What Lester Said, all of those activities.
Sure, it's detroit.design/Lester. If you don't remember the Lester part, it's in the header so you can see it. And then look at all of the other events that we have coming up towards the end of the month and in August.
Traditional four-year students love Lawrence Technological University's thriving campus life, but LTU has always met non-traditional students' needs too. Lawrence Tech offers over 100 degree and certificate programs that can get adult students started or back on track. And most of our classes are conveniently offered evenings at our beautiful Southfield campus or online, so you can balance your social, family, and work life even while you power up your career. Lawrence Tech, where Blue Devils dare.